So I wanted to kick off and chat a little bit about some of the common things we see at Nudo and some of the mistakes that, not necessarily mistakes, but misconceptions or ideas that couples have or things they have in their mind, and the things that we see a lot, and trying to help our couples and help future couples and people planning their weddings on avoiding major pitfalls really early on. So one of the first ones I thought that we should jump into is early ceremony times. So you've got some stories, definitely have some stories on early ceremony times. Why don't you hit me with one of your more recent ones?
Yeah, actually, this is a really good point. I think, like Will mentioned, you know, we often have couples coming to us with questions and queries about, you know, different elements of their day, and ceremony times is a really big one that couples always ask and come to us about. Yeah. So I think like the biggest piece of advice that we can give our couples is work backwards from your package time. So I think it's really important to, when you're booking your caterer, to chat to them about the duration of your drinks package, because, you know, it's really important in terms of the duration of your day. If you do have a 5-hour drinks package and you want your night to finish at 11 o'clock, and that also depends on the time frame of your venue as well, so make sure you keep that in mind. Work backwards from that point. So that'll get you to about 6 p.m. and then maybe you want to have a 5:30 ceremony, which is a little bit later, and obviously you go straight into a full drinks package. But then something that we chat about too is the seasons as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So if you're getting married in winter, then it's going to be dark by 5:36, and so having a ceremony even at 4:30 is not going to give you enough time to do
photos,
portraits. Yeah, you're going to want an hour for portraits, and you're going to want that last light, and you're going to miss it otherwise. So the idea of having an early ceremony can be it can be good and it can be bad. It can be essential in winter to do an early ceremony, but you've got two options. Yeah. You can either have your reception end a little bit early, so you're ending at 9:30, 10. But if you want that to push a little bit later into the evening, you now have potentially a ceremony at 3. It finishes at 3:30. You're now maybe wanting to give your guests a drink as soon as they walk out at 3:30. And if you want to party till 11, that's a serious extension of your package. And if you're already in this wedding planning and you've already been getting into this a little bit, then you know that feeding and drinking people is one of the most expensive parts of the day. So every time you add an hour, a half an hour, it's a significant cost increase, right?
Yeah, and I think as well, it's probably one of the most important part of our couple's day when we ask them, okay, cool, do you want your guests to have a drink as soon as the ceremony finishes? Yes. They're like, hell yes, most important thing. Yes. So, you know, that's a great point. You know, you can wrap things up a little bit earlier, which in winter actually tends to work quite well. Have a 10 p.m. finish, and you can either head to another bar or head home, or tack a few hours on the end.
And the thing to avoid, I suppose, as well is, yep, it's great whilst you've got the time to plan, but if you just pick a ballpark and it's in the middle of summer and say, I want to get married at 3 p.m, and then you realize that, shit, I actually want people having drinks at 3:30, 4 o'clock, and I want to go until 11. Yeah. You've just cost yourself a lot of money.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly right. So just be very conscious of your package time and your venue limitations. Actually, a really good thing, speaking of venue limitations, is reading the fine print of what's included when you book your venue.
No kidding. Every venue is different. We were just talking earlier about the fact that a BYO venue or a blank canvas venue, it sounds like
so much.
Yeah, that sounds like cool. One option is a blank canvas venue, and a blank canvas venue can be a plot of land where you put a marquee, or there could be a marquee there, but there's no power, there's no bathrooms. That's still blank canvas. Yeah. Blank canvas can be a cool warehouse with bathrooms and nothing else. It can be a cool warehouse with bathrooms and furniture and plants and air conditioning, but it's still blank canvas because you still need to bring in the rest of the decorations, and you might still need to bring in extra features and lighting. And
even things like cutlery, crockery, things like that. So it's so important to, you know, when you're booking your venue and chatting to different venues and liaising with people, really asking the hitting questions about what is included when we book you. Because, you know, like Will said, you really need to understand furniture, like what furniture they supply, cutlery, crockery.
Tell the story about the moving of the venue from inside a venue to one room to the other, because I thought I'd never heard that before, and that was wild. So your friend who picked a spot, loved it, and then saw the next room, switch to the next room because she loved the aesthetic of that room more,
Yeah.
then what happened?
Yeah, so one of my girlfriends was planning a wedding. It was at this beautiful property where they had a barn just down the hill. And then she was going to get married in the original property on the top. And then she was like, actually, oh my God, fell in love with this barn down the bottom of the hill. It's perfect. They were like, amazing, available for your date. Here's the cost. She was like, fantastic, here's my money. And then later down the track found out because it's actually down the block, they don't supply any furniture, not even power. So she now has to bring a power supplier in, all of the furniture, styling elements, you know, not to mention obviously it's far away. So you need to think about travel costs for all of your vendors. So it's super, super tricky and so important to be really mindful of what you're booking on the day.
Yeah, don't be afraid to ask important questions. Can you outline exactly what I'm going to get? What are the limitations? What time is the curfew? Are there, you know, any other restrictions? Are there any things that I need to be mindful of that I'm going to need to bring in? Every blank canvas venue is going to have different things that they include, and there's no set rule, and there shouldn't be a set rule. You know, everyone should be entitled if they have a venue, to give as much or as little as they want, and it's up to you then to choose, hey, well, I actually didn't need all this stuff. I wanted a completely empty venue because I've got this wild plan and I want to bring in everything myself. Amazing for that particular couple, but for a couple that maybe don't have as big of a vision, or they do want a little bit more hand-holding and they choose a venue with nothing, that's a pretty stressful experience.
Scary, yeah. And the best thing you can do as well is, like, as you go, just write your questions down. I think, like, you know, a lot of people are afraid to waste people's time or be too needy with questions, but just write them all down as you think of them, and then just hit the venue up with a list of 10 to 15 questions that you thought of over the past few months. That way it's nice and easy for them to hit you back with all of the answers. It's concise on your end, you've got all the information you need, and that way you can hand it all over to your vendors to create the most beautiful day.
Yeah, awesome. So another one of the common mistakes that we see couples make really regularly is organizing their own transport. Now, organizing your own transport, there's lots of different ways to do that. You can do it really well and be organized. We see a lot of people say, don't worry, I'll figure it out. I'll get there myself, or I've got a mate who can sort this out for me. Let's chat through a couple of the scenarios of what actually happens day to day at Nudo when this sort of thing happens.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good point. I think one of our couples actually recently was chatting to me about getting to the wedding in an Uber. Which frightened me to my core, as you can imagine.
Now.
Yeah, it is a very common rideshare services, very common. But I think the things that immediately I flagged with her were, you know, obviously you can't trust the cleanliness of an Uber or rideshare. They tried to keep them as clean as possible, but unfortunately, you don't know what's happened in there the night before, especially if you're getting married on a Saturday. I mean, it was a Friday night the night before. Like, have they gone to the car cleaners to get everything all like up to scratch?
But seriously though, you're in a $5,000 bridal dress. Do you actually want to take that risk?
Exactly. And even things like, you don't know what car's going to turn up on the day, and people are like, oh, I'll book a premium level ride share, but I think ultimately the premium levels are a little bit harder to come by, so then you might be stuck with waiting times. So it is really important to think
and
about.
They won't wait for you, right?
No, exactly. You know, do you want a 1-star rating on your wedding day? Absolutely not.
But seriously, they're not going to wait for you. So whether it's a limo, whether it's any type of transport, so whether it's a luxury car with a driver that is going to arrive 10-15 minutes before you actually need to depart, they're going to wait around until you're ready, until you've hugged everyone, kissed everyone, make sure that your makeup's ready, made sure that you're not in a rush. Imagine being on your wedding day and then thinking, I need to rush because the Uber's only going to wait 2 minutes before I have to get in here. So yes, you may not think a limo is your perfect, aesthetic for your day, or whatever it is the vehicle you take. Or
Would you rather it be a yellow Kia that rocks up though in an Uber? So let's be honest.
But maybe you don't care, right? Like maybe you genuinely don't care about what car you come in, but you will care about the kind of experience that you have as you travel to the venue, because the next thing you do when you get out of that car is get married.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think like even people relying on family and friends, you know, it's so lovely for family and friends to offer to drive couples on the wedding day. But I think, you know, one of the things that we deal with a lot at Nudo is, you know, the on-the-day coordinator, if you're lucky enough to have one waiting for you at the venue, obviously wants to know when you arrive, when you're 5 minutes away, and when you're booking a chauffeured car, you know, your coordinator has the ability to liaise with the driver and understand exactly where you are, your ETA, when you arrive, if they need to open sneaky side doors and sneak you in the side of the venue. So there's just a lot more communication and, you know, professionalism when you're booking a professional car service as opposed to a rideshare or family and friends who, you know, potentially might not put I mean, that much importance on the travel, or you getting there on the day?
Yeah, your run sheet is a finely tuned thing. I mean, things never necessarily run to plan or run to your run sheet, but you want to arrive on time. And if things are running a little bit late, you want good communication so that the people at the venue know how late you're going to be. All of those things get infinitely easier when you're dealing with professionals who've done this stuff before. And as soon as you remove those little professional elements, I think that's where stuff gets lost in the mix, and actually I don't think that's the best way you want to start your day.
Yeah, and I think as well, like another thing that we come across a lot is everyone considers getting to the venue. So they understand how, you know, yourself and your fiance are getting to the venue and how they're getting home, but they don't often think about in between.
No.
What about your bridal portraits, guys? I mean, really, do you want to be walking around in heels with potentially a bridal party of 12? So you've got to think about, you know, what's the best way to transport around potentially 12 to 14 people in a bridal party from one suburb to 3 suburbs away for bridal portraits. You want those Carlton Garden shots, you know?
Even if it's not that you want to go too far away, you might in your mind say, there's some really beautiful spots nearby and they're in walking distance. If in walking distance normally would be what, 200, 300 meters? All of your bridal party in heels, definitely don't want to do that and then do photos and then walk all the way back. Like, think about the experience you want for your bridal party, for your squad. You literally want that to be fun, not walking heaps, not broken in heels before you've even started dance floor stuff. You want to be able to pile into cars where the driver knows where they're going. You don't have to ferry off in 3 different vehicles where each person needs to find a park.
Yeah, everyone's got maps out.
And that's what happens, right? It's
exactly.
Like, maybe that's how you want your day to roll. Definitely for us, when we're talking about planning a wedding, making things run really smoothly so that the bride and groom, bridal party really are having a seamless day, not making decisions, that's super critical.
Yep.
Not having people say, where do I park, what do I do? All of those sorts of things, really, if they're removed, man, you have the best day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think like leaving it to the professionals also rolls into other elements of the day as well. Like, you know, when it comes to family and friends offering potentially transport and things like that, you know, you might also think like, oh, I've got a friend who's a cake designer or a cousin who's a florist and they'd love to be involved in the day, which, you know, some people really do. Like, honestly, I have a background of floristry and I've been lucky enough to be involved in my friend's wedding days, which is so special. But I think it's really important to think about as well that if they're a really important person to you and they're also invited to your day, the impact that that's going to have on them and you stress-wise for the day. So I definitely think there's something to note in terms of like common mistakes that are made in potentially like the elements of DIY or leaving it up to friends and family. You know, how important it is to seek professional advice or chat to professionals.
You always want to have personal touches in your day. And there's this natural tendency, I suppose, to think, so I'm a wedding photographer background, I've shot lots of my friends' weddings, and in reality, I miss the whole day. I'm there, and I'm so grateful that I got to deliver amazing images for my friends, but I miss that day. Because whilst everybody else is crying their eyes out, I'm literally looking for the perfect shot. So there's different varying levels of how in the process somebody could be. So as a photographer, the whole day's out for me if that's my friend's wedding. As a florist, again, you're going to be at the flower markets at 5 in the morning the day of the wedding and then turning up to the wedding.
And even things like I've been a florist and a bridesmaid as well. So then you've got to take into consideration the times I would usually be at the venue and bumping in, you know, all of the beautiful fresh wedding flowers that obviously are fresh and need to be bumped in the morning of. I also need to get my hair and makeup done, get my spray tan, like all of these other things too. So, you know, there's definitely so much alleviated stress when you can just hand that over to someone and just say, do your job, kill it, bring my vision to life, see you on the day.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is, and it's only a decision you can make is, how important is it for that person or that friend to be involved? And if it's super, super important, do it, absolutely do it. But don't think just because they can do it, don't think that they either want to, because they might actually want to just have a day off and party for your wedding, or two, that you just want somebody who's going to turn up specifically to do that job so that you can all just enjoy yourself.
Absolutely.